Thanks for sticking around. I know it's late in the day, but we're excited to talk to you guys about sustainability, like we mentioned. It's not a topic we've heard a lot about yet at the conference, but we're excited to talk about it. So my name is Sarah Curtis. I am a partner at Little, and I'm the studio principal for our service retail team, which for this conference is important because we do financial design. Little is a transdisciplinary design firm, and we focus on elevating our clients' performances. So it's great that I'm able to talk about sustainability here today. We've been designing financial spaces for 60 years. We've been in business for 60 years, so it's something we've been doing a long time. But I've been with Little for 17 years, and I have been designing retail for 17 years, but specifically financial spaces for 10 years. We're excited to bring this presentation to you guys today to talk a little bit about maybe some tangible things that you can do in your branches, but really talk about how we work together in a unique way, which is something that I've heard across this whole process and different presentations about people and collaboration, but talking a little bit about how we work together through a process and created some new ideas along the way. But before we jump in, I'd like to introduce Catherine Green, my friend and colleague from First Citizens Bank.
Thanks, Sarah, and thank you guys. We're, I think, second to last, so hope that this one keeps your interest. I'm Catherine Green, and I am the Director of Real Estate Design. My team and I lead the design direction for the bank. And if you don't know a lot about First Citizens, we turned 127 this year, so we were founded in 1898, and we started out in rural North Carolina in Smithfield, and just with $10,000 in capital when we started, and our main mission was to support the agriculture community there. The bank is one of the largest family-owned banks today, and it's currently being led by the third generation of the family. We've seen a ton of growth over the years. In the time that I've been with the bank, we have doubled in size and then doubled again. Our most recent acquisition was a couple years ago. You may have seen it in the news when we acquired Silicon Valley Bank, and that really took us into a whole nother tier of financial institution. And now we are a top 20 financial institution in the country. We have $200 billion in assets today, over 500 branches. We are across the country in 23 different states, and we have 17,000 plus associates. So really just so much growth. But we are not about growing just for growth's sake. It's been very strategic, and through all the growth, we have really maintained all of our core values as a bank, and so those are really strength and stability for the community and having a long lens approach to our philosophies. And those pillars are consistent with how we approach our real estate portfolio and development program as well.
Yep. Well, I've got my green shoes on, so let's talk about some projects. The first project that we worked on with you was not far from here, over in Boca Raton, Florida. It was our first opportunity, and give everybody a kind of an idea about why you guys decided to do a ground-up branch in that location.
Sure. So it is very much our philosophy to own our properties. So we are unique. We own about 80% of our portfolio, and that allows us to really invest in good building materials and create beautiful buildings like the one you're seeing on the screen. We were already in this market, but we were in a small, dumpy lease space. You probably saw it, I think, in the AI presentation. That one on the board was probably something that we were in, and it just wasn't us as a brand. And so we were ready to go ahead and invest in that community and invest in a beautiful building.
Yeah, and so when we were brought on board, getting to know First Citizens and kind of being a new player, we found out that you guys actually already had 3 very kind of forward-thinking strategies that you were already implementing in your design. So you were using LED lighting, which at the time, this was back in 2014, that was something we typically had to sell to clients, but you guys were already doing it, which was great. you're already using high quality insulation. As an architect, I love hearing that. That's one of the things that I usually have to push, and you guys were already doing it. And you're already using a geothermal system, which again at the time was not something standard specifically for this size of a building. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you guys came to those strategies and where that came from.
Yeah, so I mentioned that we are currently have the third generation of holding family running the bank, but their predecessor, their uncle, was really a visionary for the bank and had his eye on sustainability years ago, before it was a buzzword, and understood that there was going to be escalating energy pricing, that it was going to make sense to invest in energy efficient buildings. And so that long lens approach was happening way back when. Things like the LED lighting, we are from the Raleigh area, so Research Triangle Park is in our backyard, and back then CRE was the leader in developing LED lighting, so we were all on board with supporting that initiative, and we were some of the first to start there. We also were introduced, the former chairman was, to a geothermal system through an advisor, and was told that that was, the sustainable system, and he embraced that, and we rolled that out in several different states, in North Carolina branches, Virginia, and Arizona.
Yeah, and so again, being new to you guys and learning about these strategies you already had, right? LED, great, let's move on. High quality insulation, love this. Geothermal was one, like you mentioned. It's a great concept. It's a good idea. It may not make sense everywhere though. So what was neat about working with you guys is you have so many partners that you work with and that are part of a collaboration. So we've talked a lot about people and collaborating, and that was really at the heart of what you guys were doing. So we worked with the GC that you had on board. They'd already built a whole bunch of branches for you guys. They'd installed all these systems. They'd put in the geothermal, and they had a lot of information for us to be able to kind of dig in, understand what the cost was, understand what are the maintenance issues. If you're not familiar with geothermal, it uses the ground heat, and so you're putting all these wells in all over your site, and so sometimes there wasn't a lot of space for that. There's maintenance of that. When it goes down, it kind of shuts your system down. So I learned a lot from working with your GC, and I know that partnership is really kind of one of the things that's part of your culture.
It really is at the heart of the culture of First Citizens. So it's the bankers and making connections with their clients, but it's also definitely on the corporate real estate side as well. We rely on our vendor partners, and we've had several of them for decades working on our program. So definitely true of several of the GCs, but also people like our mill worker. He is out of Whiteville, North Carolina, been with the bank for 3 decades and understands who we are at our core, what our expectations are, what our preferred base molding profile is. In fact, their shop's amazing. They have a whole First Citizens section, and all the routing tools are there labeled, and it's amazing. And he's one example of those relationships. So what's great about it is when we onboard a new vendor, and at the time, so over 10 years ago, that was little, being able to have someone like Pridgeon Woodworks share their institutional knowledge directly with Sarah and the GCs and all that is just invaluable. It also is a asset that we leverage when new folks join our team. So we just continue to pass that information along, and I think it's secret sauce.
Yeah, and it definitely talks to some of the presentations yesterday about bringing together all of the players, and that was a really what worked well for this project. You guys already had a culture of it. It works in our culture as well, so it was a good pairing. But what we'll talk about, so again, you were doing all of these solutions, right? You already had a great prototype that was 41% more efficient than code. So you guys were already doing a great thing right there. So you probably are wondering, well, then why are we talking about this? Why are we doing anything here? We know that using a single source is not always the greatest solution there. There's also the high upfront cost. of the geothermal system. And again, we learned about a lot of the maintenance issues along the way with the partners that you already had. So we thought, you know what, we know this is great, but could we do better? You know, it's always our intention to partner with our clients and not just continue to give you what you've already got. You could take the plans to somebody else, they can draw it for you, they can get it permitted, they can get it built. But what we really value and what we strive for is to look and see, well, what more could we do? How are we giving you results beyond the architecture? How are we elevating your performance? And so what we did is we took a look at the three things that you'll see there that you were already doing, and we thought, well, what if we took a holistic approach? We know that geothermal has a high upfront cost, so let's see what can we do to offset just that piece, because again, LED lighting, great, high quality insulation, great. How do we offset the upfront cost of the geothermal system? So we started with looking at other mechanical systems. So a lot of your existing locations had just, you know, split systems everywhere. So we analyzed that. We looked at geothermal and we analyzed that one because, again, that was a solution you were using and it was a really good option. We also looked at what you'll see, variable refrigerant flow, VRF. As we're at a banking conference, we'll go ahead and shorten that one. But we looked at that as well. So we analyzed 3 different systems. We analyzed the cost. We analyzed the energy efficiency of those and kind of looked at those with your GC partner, being able to put price on that. But we went further than just that system. So with that system, we looked at plasma ion filtration, which is just a really technical term for how do we clump stuff in your mechanical system so that it gets filtered out. So pairing that with the system made it more efficient and made it work better. We looked at improving your glazing assembly. Again, finding out that you guys were already utilizing wood windows, so we're not losing a lot of energy through a metal frame system. So that was, you know, a solution that you guys were already doing. We didn't need to improve there, but it added to that kind of holistic approach. Electrochromic glazing was something we looked at, so being able to kind of dim the glass as the sun moves across the sky so that you're not having to pull up and down shades and you're keeping the heat out of your building. Something else we looked at. And then the last thing that we looked at was phase change material, which is kind of this idea of adding mass into a building. Again, this was in Florida, but we weren't building it with CMU. We were looking at a different solution. And so how do we add mass back in so that it's regulating its temperature? So that's kind of, we looked at all of those things and put them together, worked with your GC and your other partners that were already on board and said, all right, well, the geothermal system's $100,000. That's what they've been installing it as. Again, 41% energy use reduction over code. So the holistic approach, you know, when you add all those things up, ended up being $20,000 cheaper, and we were able to improve your energy reduction by 11%, which was huge. You'll see we kind of struck out electrochromic glazing. We looked at it. It was a high cost, very little impact. So again, doing this analysis to understand what makes the most sense for this location and for you guys.
So it all looks really good on the screen. We didn't have AI back then, so how did you confirm that this, in fact, delivered as it should?
Absolutely. It would be great to have had that because I think it would have taken a lot less time. But what we did is we always want to make sure we go in and do some measurement and verification of these designs that we put out there. It's never our intention to design something and walk away and say good luck, right? We want to make sure that what we've designed for you is in fact what you get. So you guys were nice enough to share a year's worth of utility bills with us. We took that information, analyzed it, and compared it to what we told you we were giving you. So, you know, we have code that we were comparing it against. Your prototype, again, already 41% better. We told you it was going to be 52% better, and it ended up being right at 51.5. So we'll round that up and say that that was pretty spot on, which we were really, really excited about, that it delivered on what we said we were going to do.
Yeah, and I think we were very satisfied with the results. And so for the next 6 years, we continued that mechanical analysis process on all of our projects. And because we are in a lot of geographies across the country, we were able to test it in California, in Texas, Washington State, North Carolina, and Florida.
Yep. And so what we'll do is we'll skip ahead 6 years. We started this process in 2014, and like you mentioned, we were doing this analysis on every branch across all those different regions. What we did change was that we switched from doing all of those different systems to really just, again, honing in on that mechanical system, because when you're in different regions, you have different climates, and geothermal might make sense. So we didn't want to abandon things that you'd done in the past if they make sense. but we did want to make sure we're looking at what makes the most sense. So we move over to a California project from a Florida project. So give everybody a little bit, again, of a rundown as to how you decided on this location.
Yeah, it wasn't dissimilar. We also were in the market, again, in a small lease space, and we were ready to build something. It's obviously a beautiful building, and we wanted to put roots down in the Mission Viejo market permanently.
Right, so again, we went through the process, we looked at the mechanical systems, and what we found is, yet again, after 6 years of doing analysis, that VRF won out again. Even in this market, it became the new standard for you guys. So it was the bookend to all of this work that we'd been doing over the past 6 years and saying, all right, this makes the most sense. Let's just continue with this. This is now our standard. We don't need to do all of that analysis. We've done it. And so that became, the standard for you guys.
But clearly we've picked this project to highlight, so can you tell us why it was important that we focus on this as well?
Absolutely. So we're talking about this one because we did all that measurement in Boca Raton. It came out great. We felt good about it. Well, when we went back and did the measurement of this one, it didn't come out the same way. We realized that it was using 33% more than what we thought it was going to use. And so it just kind of stopped us in our tracks, and we had to have a conversation. So we came back together with First Citizens, with the GC. It's in California, so we had a commissioning agent. We brought in the local staff there and really just talked about, all right, what's happening? Why is this out of whack? We know that it is been designed. We know that we've verified it in other markets, so why is it not working here? And really, it just came down to having that conversation, doing a little research, finding out that there was a little bit of training in the maintenance of the systems and the cleaning staff, and ultimately, after about 3 months, it kind of worked itself back out and became back in line with what we were looking for.
But I think that process, again, highlights just bringing the group together for collaboration. And I think had we not brought in the facility team and had that group discussion, we wouldn't have been able to pinpoint what the issue was. So I think
Absolutely.
that was valuable.
Yeah, making sure everybody has a voice in that so that we get to the problem fast. We actually were able to solve that relatively quickly and came up with a solution there. But what's really great about this story is this is how you guys were already pushing forward on things, and it was great to work with you and to partner with you, and that's been over 10 years ago. So give everybody an idea of what are your current strategies that you guys are working on.
Sure. So we have a lot of exciting things happening, specifically in corporate real estate for the bank. In 2023, we stood up formally a sustainability program, and they've rolled out and launched several initiatives. The first being sustainability surveys. And so what that means is a team is going out into different buildings, and they are bringing MCIM platform with them, so a tablet, and they're collecting all kinds of data, whether that's on the mechanical systems, the maintenance processes, and what that's doing is allowing the team to then take that data and analyze it and compare it, the building efficiencies against each other. We also this year, we're doing that for 30 locations in 2025. And then also this year, we launched our electric vehicle charging station pilot program. So 5 corporate locations have been rolled out for 2025. And then once that pilot finishes, we'll evaluate how we expand that throughout the portfolio further. Currently in permit, in very long permits, we have a couple branches that are going to be our first with solar panels. And what's really exciting about that for us is they're the first, but as you saw on our buildings, we really love our roofs. We're very proud of what our roofs look like. So we're not just slapping solar panels onto these beautiful tile roofs. We've integrated them into either the site or the back of the building so as to preserve the architectural integrity of our buildings still, but still having that sustainability story to tell. We also stood up a third-party utility payment service this year. And so that is going to allow us to collect all of the data from our utility payments and better analyze and track our energy consumption and our spend there.
Yeah. And I would say that one's most exciting for me. Other than the other ones, I love integrating all those other things for you guys as well. But being able to have a resource to do that measurement and verification, right? This doesn't happen without you guys having that information and sharing it with us. But not just that, you're able to compare this branch to that branch to this branch to be able to really pinpoint quickly, where do we need to dig in, where are we making strides.
Right. So a lot of these ideas are, more on data and new opportunities. But I think we also are just leaning into what we have been doing and what we're good at. And so it's true to the DNA of the bank. And that's really striving to continue to design buildings that are timeless, not trendy, that use quality materials, that last longer, systems that have more life expectancy, and so that we can extend the life of those buildings and we can reduce waste that ends up in landfills. And I think as we've been working on this presentation, what is exciting to me and what I'm excited to share with you all is that we have a very traditional product that maybe when you look at it, you don't immediately think these are the cutting edge sustainable buildings. But I think there's a really awesome story to tell here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny as we talked about it, thinking about great design includes sustainability. It's just woven in. I mean, when you do it well, you don't know that all of those technologies are built into this building, but they're a big piece of the fabric of it and the story that you guys work on. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for attending. If you have questions, please reach out to us. I know we threw a lot of very technical information at you and lots of figures, but if you have any questions on that, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
So thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.